Xavian.
What's good, man? We are back with another episode of the Real Rap Coalition podcast, man. And this is episode number 17, man. We 17 weeks into this. And so without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the shit. This week, we got a movie chosen by Artt. And we had, I got to let everybody introduce themselves. But this week's movie was chosen by Artt. Before we introduce the movie, we're going to introduce the people. My name is Showtime Slim. Who else we got in the building today, man?
FDub, you already know what it is. It's good to be back.
Shout out FDub.
Bob Celeste, I'm the best. Mo Better Blues. Let's get it.
Yo, I'm the depressed Mexican, John Doe.
Welcome back. And Artt is also with us, but he just dipped out for a minute. I don't know where the fuck he went.
Yeah, he might be back in this bitch.
We're gonna let Luno go ahead and like do the summary, introduce the movie and everything. Go ahead, man.
For sure. Academy Award-winning actor Denzel Washington gives us a crazy performance in another Spike Lee masterpiece.
Right? Spike Lee joint.
Yeah,
the Spike Lee joint.
We got Mo Better Blues, man. This one was from the year 1990, I think, right? We got Bleak Gilliam, played by Denzel Washington, the one and only. He basically plays an obsessed and indecisive musician. He's indecisive about his relationship with his friends and his love life or whatever else. But when he's forced to come to make some hard decisions or whatever, he faces some difficulties that make him question himself. And this is a movie that is about him as a talented jazz musician, sort of navigating some difficulties of his time in his circle. So it's a movie that focuses a lot on music. It's a movie that focuses a lot on drama and themes of love, and also about purpose. So I'm really excited to talk about this Denzel Washington flick. We're gonna open the floor up before we continue. Obviously, there's gonna be spoilers, so if you didn't watch it yet, definitely go watch Mo Better Blues. Rented it for $5 on YouTube because the bootleg site was down. Artt, if you had anything to say since it was your pick, to start us off, man, by all means.
Yeah, my bad. I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here now, bro. Yeah, I got this is one of my favorite movies, my personal favorite Spike Lee movie. Yeah, this is a very interesting movie in my opinion. A lot of our star actors started in this movie or around this time at least. So yeah, I want to see what y'all think about it, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing I want to point out from the very beginning, the first thing that we see or hear, they got a Flavor Flav cameo doing the Universal like opening credits type shit. They got him speaking in the background, which is some shit that I'm just assuming it's just some Spike Lee shit because
my bad. Yeah, well, Spike Lee and Public Enemy, which is Flavor Flav, the group that he's from, they got a special connection. Like their biggest song, "Fight the Power," was created for the movie "Do the Right Thing." That's the very famous song. Yeah, so that's like he has a connection with the that kind. I always thought that kind of didn't fit this movie for some reason, just because it's like a jazz movie, and the first thing you hear is Flavor Flav. But
I'm thinking that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking it's just because it's a Spike Lee thing. That's why, because I've never heard anybody talk over the Universal intro ever. And so when I heard him talking, it's like, okay, and he specifically said Spike Lee too while he was doing it.
That's just Spike Lee being his unapologetically black self. Like
that's right. And different. We have to keep in mind that this movie, along with a lot of Spike Lee's films, is going to be partly like a vignette on black historical movements and sort of like black messaging and stuff. And they make that clear from the outset. Our setting is going to be Brooklyn in the late 1960s, right? Which is a time of like civil rights movements, war on drugs, a lot of transformative stuff has happened in the black community, and they set us right there. The focus not being exactly on the streets, or necessarily the drug problem, but more so about the music movement that was going on in the city and some of the difficulties they were having. So up front, the setting of Brooklyn, New York. I mean, I live in New York, and Brooklyn's where I spent a lot of time as a musician, right? So some of the things in this movie, the effects, they include kind of the music. That's the idea of the musical venues and trying to pack out the house and give the people what they want. There's a feel of like the kind of entertainment district of the city around that time, but not everybody is from New York, so this doesn't really hit the same. I want to know how y'all were kind of feeling about the setting they put us in the 1960s, sort of in the way that people are talking in this movie.
So, the setting was, like I said this before the podcast episode started, I thought it was refreshing a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. So they do start on the 60s. I think the year is 1969, like that first opening flashback with Bleak, playing the trumpet and whatnot, right? And then it flash forwards to like probably like the 90s,
probably.
The
Yeah.
90s,
Probably.
more than likely. I can tell
the early 90s, which is like kind of modern. It was the modern time or whenever the movie was made, pretty much.
Yeah. I like that shit. I like the setting. I like everything really about this the movie really. The whole New York getup and this is a so New York type movie. You feel me? Like fucking starting from like what they're wearing, the obviously the music, the women, all that. You feel me? Like it was dope. I thought it was real refreshing compared to like what we reviewed so far in the podcast. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that part.
I at first when I was younger, like I guess because I watched it when I was very younger. Like I couldn't even like determine what the time period was, like, because jazz even back then was like such a niche thing, like in the middle of New York in the 90s, because that's when hip hop was prominent. So I thought this whole thing took place in the 70s when I was young, or the 60s when I was younger.
For sure.
But
I think so. Talking about that opening scene, the first thing that stood out to me, shout out actor, his name is Dion Richmond, which I actually just found out right now because I wanted to get his real name, but it was the little kid he played Kenny on the Cosby Show, and they had him. He was like the first thing I saw. I'm like, hey, that's Kenny. What the hell? And so I want to give a shout out to that because Cosby Show was like a big thing around that time as well, like 1990s.
Absolutely.
And so I'm pretty sure he was very like a notable character at that time because I knew him from the Cosby Show, whereas people during that time, they probably knew him from that too, and maybe other shit that he was in, whatever type shit. But me watching it as like, I was born in 1994, so I grew up really watching it as like reruns.
Yeah.
So exactly. when you look at that time period, and it's like in 1990 when this drops, people are looking at it and they probably knew him from like current day shit that was going on, like current movies and shit. So I wanted to give a shout out to that because I don't think I really see him in a lot of shit. I think he was on like maybe like Sister or some shit when I don't know what the fuck he was on, but I know he was on the Cosby Show.
Yeah. Shout out Dion Richmond, man.
Yeah, shout out that guy.
Dion Richmond, man.
The first actor we get a shout out is Dion Richmond.
The first guy I seen, I'm like, wait a minute, that's Kenny.
It's interesting though, because the first scene that was set in the 60s, obviously we got Bleak as a kid, right? Our main character. He's in the house, he's practicing the trumpet, he's not particularly good. Seems like his father's into music. There's a piano and some records in the house, but he's more or less just watching the game. His friends come over, they want to play. He can't play right now. His mom's yelling out the window, tells him, go and get rid of your friends, it's time for practice. And even though he wants to go out and play, practice comes first. We find out that in a gradual shift, we go to the present, and Bleak is a talented what do you call it, like a headliner?
Trumpeter.
A trumpeter, and clearly a kind of like a polymath of a musician. I mean, he seems to have like some other skills as well. We find out later, obviously, but like it seems like no matter what the tutelage meant for his social life as a kid, he blooms into this like great musician, and he's the head of Bleak and the band, basically, right?
Quartet.
So Luno, I think also worth noting in the band were a few notable actors as well. Wesley Snipes played Shadow.
Shadow.
He was in the movie, and also one of y'all say his name. Fireworks.
Giancarlo Esposito. He played
Yeah.
Lacey, left hand Lacey.
Left hand Lacey. I never know how
He's
to
from
say his name.
he's from Better Call Saul. And that
He's also
and Breaking
from
Bad.
Breaking Bad. Boys,
He was,
And,
yeah, he
Better
was
Call
a
Saul, lot of shit.
He was also on the
Yeah,
Maze Runner as well. But
yeah, but he started off as like he was a lot like Spike Lee used him a lot, and like he was in Do the Right Thing and a couple other movies too with Spike Lee. So
Yeah. So already
got
like in this like early part, like I think they're doing a lot to set themselves apart from other movies. For 1990s, I think we could say like a lot of stuff from this time had some flaws. I mean, what was it called? Desperado, coming out in I think the 80s. That one we watched. There were some flaws in like cinematography and effects, and even the way like maybe even characters interacted that was either cliche or just sort of dry. It wasn't like to the level of today. But in this movie, one thing I think they nailed was actually dialogue. One thing about Spike Lee is that he's very overt. Like he will do an obvious parody of a certain personality type, right? If you have like the class clown type person, he'll make them over the top class clown.
yeah.
If you
I was
have
gonna
like
get into
the
the
ultra serious whatever, so there's a lot of strong personalities in this movie, and I like how they kind of had the scene in the backstage, the dressing room. Everybody's kind of talking at once, even though you're focusing on what Bleak is saying to Shadow, right?
right.
That was fire.
It's kind of cool how they had that feeling like the loud ass room, sort of barbershop talk. Very good, like interpersonal, like kind of dynamics between the characters, like the
It
feel.
felt real. It felt like it was like a real conversation, like a candid conversation.
Yeah, that scene was fire, and also because I don't think we're going in like a linear order, like we're kind of skipping around. So I want to point out another scene that I thought, because for me personally, I just give my thoughts about how I felt about the movie real quick. How I felt about it from the beginning, it was a little slow for me. I felt like the pacing in the first 30 minutes for sure was slow, because I looked down at the time. I'm like, okay, it's 30 minutes in. I don't know where this is going yet. Nothing's really happening type shit.
Yeah.
Once it gets halfway through to like an hour, that's when I started to get more into it. But specifically, there was one scene where the way they shot it, the way they set it up, everything was crazy. And it was like whenever he was in the bed with his girl and he was talking to her, he called her the wrong name. But then it flips to he's in the bed with his other girl.
Yeah, how the camera was panning back and forth was dope as fuck.
Bro, they're having one conversation. They're both having the same conversation, and it keeps panning back and forth to each girl saying pretty much the same thing to him.
Hey, but Slim, that's like a dope way that he like gave you like the way that his like mind was so fucked up, like his mental was so fucked up. That was like his way of showing you how fucked up he was.
Yeah, like because he said first he said her name wrong. He called it Indigo. He was like, that ain't my name. And then he was like, nah, I called you your name. And then it flips to Indigo. And he was like, nah, you ain't that shit was
I'm gonna be honest,
crazy, bro.
I'm gonna be honest. I did that shit before, and that shit is no bueno, dog. That shit is the scariest. Like my heart dropped when that shit happened.
And it's as somebody that like kind of like writes scripts for certain things and everything. Like I wonder how does that script writing process go for that type of scene? It's just like,
you know what? I don't. Now that I'm looking at it,
Art, trust me.
But I'll say this: now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it's hard to do. But I'm thinking, like, how do you think of that? How do you think to do some shit like that?
You know what I think it is? It is an extension of something they've been doing since playwriting, right? The idea of a soliloquy, but it's kind of like a kind of a modification, because in a way I look at that scene like he was sort of talking to himself. This was him doing the cost benefit analysis of the women or the music, right? Like, what do you actually care about, nigga? And even when he was like in the sheets with Shorty, he was fingering the fucking mouthpiece for the trumpet. You saw that little effect that they got on there? Yeah. It's just like he has his other lover like present at all times, and no matter which chick he's spending,
You see where he spazzed on her for biting his lip, like.
Facts. Hey, he even expressed that when I think he told her something along the lines of like, he loved music and everything else is secondary, and that's including the women. One thing we didn't mention was that in this movie, the role that they gave Denzel was that he had two women basically, and
he was a womanizer.
Yeah, basically. So I actually assumed he was gonna have more the way his pops was talking, like when they had their little talk and he was like other women. I thought it was gonna be more, but it was only 2.
When you
I
add
give him
20
that.
chicks in the movie, it'd be a lot of moving parts, hard to track for sure.
While we on the part when he was talking when he was playing catch with his father, I gotta kind of that's what I was going to say about with Spike Lee just be kind of shoehorning like messages in there. It was when he's playing catch with his father and his father said something weird like
he said,
be careful. I don't want another 16-year-old mother walking around. I'm like, bro, your son is almost 30. Like, why do you randomly say that?
But that's kind of what fatherly advice is. He's an OG, and we're supposed to regard what he's saying as conventional wisdom. Now, for our own critical purposes, we could say, all right, pops, we done heard this message a million times, but it ended up being true in a larger sense for him at the end of the movie, right? Because we see that his lesson that his father was trying to impart to him, he ends up living that in the end. Because the scene that we get at the beginning, he's kind of like stuck doing the lessons and like he doesn't get to explore or whatever. And this repression caused him to like become he would inflict that rules on himself to like keep practicing and that shit comes first. But then when he had his own breed, then he was like, he's doing the lessons with him. He's right there with him while he's not just watching the game. He's there with him while he's practicing. And then he go say, practice is over. Go play with your friends. You know what I mean? So he kind of learned from that moral in the end. So I guess it had its purpose. It was sort of foreshadowing, right?
Yeah. I also want to give another shout out to they threw in another actor that was pretty notable. He was a comedian. They threw in Robin Williams.
Oh yeah,
Robin Harris. Why did I say Robin Williams? Like that's crazy.
He actually his stand up this was actually funny. Like it was actually like usually whenever somebody play a comedian, it would be corny, but like he actually
that's what I was gonna say. Art.
I guess that was his real jokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because Robin Harris is a comedian, and they threw him in as like a comic relief type of character because this was really like a drama, like Luno said. But they was throwing like little comedy in there, and that's why they had the comedian on stage telling jokes. I feel like although it was 1990, this is still necessary today. Like I feel like what he was doing was still comical. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the jokes were stale.
It's very
or
in the
anything.
vein of like common stand-up, which is like you're gonna have like some racy or like saucy takes like mixed in with the comedy. You're gonna like make some social commentaries and stuff. But the shit was funny, you could tell an ugly bitch anything. Pretty bitch, she'd be like, "You can't tell me what to do." You're ugly bitch. You could say, "Hun, I'm going to the moon. I'll be back in 2 days." It
wasn't
like
the jokes wasn't it wasn't jet. Yeah, the jokes wasn't stale or anything. It was like, even though it was 1990, which was what, fucking forever ago, almost. Fuck, that was over 30 years ago. Shit.
33 years ago.
It's starting to make me feel old, Slim.
Yeah, right. I take pride in being like, like a flexible thinker. I don't think there's like one tried and true way that shit gotta be funny for black people. But if it's one thing I'll give Spike Lee credit for, it was kind of capturing the essence of brothers' humor. Like, and it wasn't just for the comedian character. It was everybody. Even when bro's right hand man, G, the manager, he was going
Giant.
to the venue. He was Giant. He went to the venue. And the two dudes were standing up in front. Why is the doors not open yet? They get to cussing each other out, joking, roasting in the same way we kind of do.
Charlie Murphy as well.
Charlie Murphy.
The other
actor, I don't know the other actor's name, but he was in Do the Right Thing too.
Rest in peace. But you look like a Slim Jim in a suit, man. Fuck on. It's like this little shit. There's just like a lot of comedy in this movie. I think they.
Hey, Luno, I will bring this up though. Art, I told you about it. Now, one thing about the 90s, the old days, they used to get away with saying a lot of shit that they shouldn't have been saying.
Now I know one of the jokes that you said
they said some hey yo, pause ass shit.
Bad, bro.
Which one?
I know exactly Charlie Murphy said
in the dressing room.
That was one of
in
them.
the dressing room.
Nope. I'm talking about the comedian.
It was three. He said it too.
The comedian was talking to some fine ladies in here. I'm about as horny as I could fuck the crack of dawn. And then they said there's some fine gentlemen in here too. Tonight I'm a trisexual. I'll try you. Some shit.
I'll try your little ass. Like pause. Like, yo,
That was definitely crazy. But that also speaks to the time because back
the
then,
time, yeah, that's what I
like
said.
it was people that was dressed kind of crazy, like people that was dressed like Prince and shit. So
He
like that be
said
the
I'm a
they was
trisexual. Like what?
so they was the jokes that niggas had like niggas be dressing sus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like honestly, like we can have a little discussion about the pause culture is relatively new. Like
Crazy.
before pause, it was like no homo, but this whole pause culture itself, where we do it's relatively new in the grand scheme of things. So in the '90s, there was none of this type of shit that we're talking about right now. There was no
Yeah.
pause,
Like,
there was
yes,
none of that stuff.
yes and no, because I think at the same time, the 90s was probably a tougher time for gay people than 2023, right? In the 90s, you still got people saying F bomb, you know what I'm saying, to refer to gay people, and the gay person who's walking by on the street doesn't really have any room to talk. It's just sort of, you are this like F word, you know what I'm saying? And nowadays, you say anything remotely critical of gay people and stuff like that, and society is ready to jump down. So it's definitely a commentary on the times too. You put that in your comedy sketch because everybody in the room is going to be made somewhat uncomfortable by it, but at the same time, we're just making a parody of it.
But I feel like that shit was more acceptable to joke about at that time, whereas you can't joke about that shit now. Like they used to have a lot of shows like In Living Color and all these different shows that used to like kind of quote unquote parody or mock gay people and gay culture and stuff like that. Even stand-up
Across the line.
comedians. Yeah. Like Dave Chappelle used to do a lot of that shit. Didn't they just try to cancel Dave Chappelle over like some gay jokes or some shit like
He had
recently?
some about trans people. I seen it was a couple. It
Yeah,
was a
and
while ago.
that was like the style that him and like In Living Color used to do shit like that, like in the
Yeah.
early '90s and 2000s. And
Right.
so I feel like now you can't really joke about that shit, whereas back then it was acceptable to put those kind of jokes in your
Yeah,
stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
So
that's why I said I didn't notice that type of stuff because when I watch these movies from those times, I literally put my mind like in that time frame, like so I
right.
don't.
yeah,
Yeah, R.I.P. Robin Harris too. I saw that they put like a tribute at the end of the movie that it was in memory of him because he died in March of 1990, and this movie was also released in 1990. So it might have been his last or one of his last films. But I think he
Right.
did a great job. A lot of the actors did a great job. Samuel L. Jackson was also in the movie. He had a small cameo. Well, he popped up a few times, but he was Samuel L. Jackson.
Hey, Samuel Jackson and Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes in the same movie. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, this movie was star-studded from beginning to end, bro. Like honestly, it amazed me at like, where these actors are now with their careers and like how they started. Like, it's kind of like humbling just to see how they started out, you know what I mean, on movies
So
like this.
You know what,
So,
Fireworks? I feel like that's what it is because we're like here where we are, like we just said, it's 33 years in the future from where that movie was. And so we look at it from like we see where these actors are now, and to see them when they're coming up,
Yeah.
it's different because I just watched the Scream franchise. It's the same way. Like they had
Yeah.
Jada Pinkett in it and Omar Epps,
Right.
Anthony Anderson, like a bunch of people in a different time period, like the
Yeah.
late '90s. These people were in it, and so you jump forward to 2023. These people are mega stars now, whereas
Yeah.
back then they were probably still stars, but not as what they are now. Type shit. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
like bro, like yo, Denzel Washington was 25 in this movie.
That's
wow.
crazy.
I can't even fathom the fact that I'm right now older than he was because he don't even seem like a 25-year-old in
Hell
my
nah, he
mind.
never seems like a 25-year-old.
I can't fathom the fact that I'm older now than he was back then. Like he seemed like he's still.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on, because in Art's last pick, motherfuckers, one thing that does stand out actually is its soundtrack. For what it's worth, there were some cool, like slick, like kind of hip hop beats here and there.
Yeah.
Some cool numbers and stuff. So I think Art is pretty attentive to like the musical aspect of the movie.
No, like music and movies go hand in hand with me. Like
Okay,
this movie
and
is actually my
yeah.
bad. You can go ahead and finish your
No,
point.
it's only to say that with this movie, I think the music is a centerfold. They will commit long moments of screen time to the musical elements or to the performance element. So I wanted to know, even if jazz is or isn't your cup of tea, what you guys kind of thought about the on-screen musical
Can
moments.
I say something real quick? Because
Yeah.
I like it, bro. Let's say something real quick. I thought the movie was fire, right? But there was one specific part in the movie that, bro, like, I don't know, man. You know, I got a lot of shit going on in my life right now, dog. And this is one part got me right in my feels for some reason. And it wasn't even really a sad part. I guess it was kind of a sad part, but just the music itself, dog. When he got on stage, he said, "Y'all familiar with the blues? Because I am. You know, I'm about to play a song. It's a little bit of blues." And he started playing that shit, bro. Like,
Yeah,
That
damn,
song was fire too.
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying.
That's that. Yeah,
That
I play that song like all the time. Just that song by itself. But
exactly.
yeah,
That
like
song was just crazy, bro. It was dope as
this
fuck. And that shit just
music,
fire.
this this movie kind of introduced me to jazz, which actually got me more acquainted to jazz type hip hop beats like J Dilla and
Okay.
Madlib and all that, which
Yeah.
kind of introduced me to the music that I like that that I
Yeah.
listen to now, like MF Doom and Madlib and Quasimodo and all that. So
Right.
Shout out
yeah,
MF Doom. Rest in peace as well.
yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing is like with this movie, I feel like there's a strong sense if somebody isn't really into jazz music, that it could be a point of departure, like from an entertainment standpoint. Because for me, like, I think there's something to be appreciated about the jazz. Like, if you know about music, you know, like the licks that they're playing are being like technically like achieved, like the way that they're acting it out is the way that it's played. It's not like you watch the
Yeah.
movie and you hear the music, but the like hands on the drums and stuff is out of time. Like this movie has nailed the performance element.
And that's
of
something
it
they
to a
had to
T.
practice too. Like I saw something about that when I first looked up this movie to see what it was. They had to practice that. Like Wesley Snipes and Denzel Washington, they had no previous
Training.
experience playing
Yeah.
music. So they literally had to practice that, like you said, for the hand motions to match what the music was playing type shit.
Even when he's vocalizing, the moment where he was like vocalizing the trumpet when he was in the room spinning around in his chair, like he was kind of doing that with a sort of technical precision, and also
Yeah.
saying like A minor 7, like to the key he was playing on the piano while he was writing. Right, so a lot of those like little tender things are going to be appreciated by like people who understand that there's like a performatively impressive aspect of music. But let's say you have somebody who just listens to, like fucking 2 Chainz, Gucci Mane, or some, some current shit, and then they watch this movie. Do you guys think that the sort of on-screen performances are going to have the same effect for that person?
Probably
Right.
not.
And I
It
feel like that. I
depends.
feel like that type of stuff has to be a necessity for movies like this, because if you don't do that, then it's gonna be like it's gonna be a movie about a jazz musician, but it's not going to be a movie about jazz
Yeah,
music.
but we can do that. Like I think this movie could have just embraced more like the drama associated with the whole like music that they were doing, and like focused really on the debt that he had and made it kind of more of like an action drama. But no, like we were focused on the music here, and music for the sake of music, right? And so what I'm trying to get at here is like for somebody who doesn't like jazz, what is there to appreciate about the musical moments of this movie that they could still, appreciate? Like,
Right.
So I think when you say doesn't like jazz, that's more of saying like a dislike of jazz. And so if you have a dislike of jazz, then you're not gonna like it. But as of somebody who just might not be immersed in jazz, like you don't dislike it, but you're not that exposed to it, you could like it or you could not. It kind of goes both ways. But if somebody just don't like it, then they're not gonna like it because that's just how that goes.
You just got to come into this shit with like an open mind.
Open
really.
mind, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
know what I mean.
I feel
So
like this movie is made for people that like jazz though, because they play a lot of full like on jazz numbers. Like they play the entire song.
they was
I'll say
wicked.
this, Art. I
They
feel like
was definitely
somebody.
wicked.
I say that somebody that doesn't like, somebody that's not that familiar with jazz, but they like Denzel Washington, and they come and watch this movie, they might like it.
No, I love that like that first scene when Shadow was like really wigging on the on the saxophone,
On the
trying
saxophone.
to she was wigging on it, and then Denzel had to put him back in his place. Like
That was because Spike Lee told him to. And I want to
yeah.
talk about Shadow too,
Oh yeah.
because
We gotta talk about Shadow, and we gotta talk about Giant.
listen, Shadow is one of the most hating ass niggas, dirty macking niggas I've ever seen in a movie.
This whole movie, this like the third like plot of this movie is pretty much Denzel and Wesley Snipes trying to out smooth each other. Like that's like
and it was really Shadow being a snake. Like at the end of the day, like he was he was dirty macking to the girl. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what you see in Bleak, man. Like, you know, if he don't respect you, you don't need to be with, like,
That type of stuff really
damn.
happened too,
He
though.
was
I'm
he
just
was
saying you can
already
do better,
plotting on
ass nigga.
the low.
But I mean,
That's a Marvin's room ass nigga, bro.
and he was wrong in that though. But then, like, you know, Bleak was kind of showing like he wasn't being as sensitive to Shorty too, so she got that kind of excuse in the back of her head to do what she did.
He already
Like,
told that hoe he don't love her, and he told her he don't love her, and he love his music more. She's secondary.
But you know what?
And
Shadow
she chose to
actually
be there.
ends up, yeah, well, Shadow actually ends up being like the hero of the story. If it wasn't for him kind of emasculating Bleak and making him lose like these chicks that validate him and his ego or whatever, right? Maybe he would have never had like the realization that he is like too self-centered, you know, in the end. Maybe he needed to lose like the chicks in his life for him to start like really thinking things
So I'll
through.
say this, Luno. What
Yeah.
I think it was definitely like a higher message to the movie, and it
Yeah.
kind of goes along with what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it, but I also think it's just like an overall sense of he lost everything, even when he you know, he went out there to help Giant because Giant was a fucking gambling addict or some shit, and he lost all the money
he was a
that
dumbass. That's what he was, a
he,
dumbass.
he was pathetic.
yeah, he was a fucking gambling manager, and so he was supposed to be getting the money, and he was borrowing money to go bet. He was sports betting, you know, baseball and shit, and he was losing money, and so he had no money. Yeah. He owed these people, these loan sharks,
and he was betting thousands
you know
and thousands on top of thousands and thousands of
yeah.
dollars.
Yeah, but you know what? I think like we get a Giant, and Giant is clearly not a polished dude. I'm talking like I could see Giant out the suit in like some regular ass clothes, just being like some random dude on the street talking.
You know who he is?
Like,
weird.
You know what he is? He is a random dude, but he's Bleak's friend that he grew
yeah,
up
he's
with.
his childhood friend. Like,
Exactly.
that's why
Right.
Bleak don't feel like he has like he don't
But
want to
there's
do what he.
Exactly. Know? There's two layers to
Yeah.
that though, because on one hand, yeah, it's his friend, and that's why he was keeping them around. But
Right.
there was more that was just affected in the situation than Bleak. It was the whole band. The whole band was crying and complaining about not getting enough fucking money. Apparently, Bleak is doing good in that.
That's
band,
because he got a fucking problem, a fucking gambling problem. I blame that.
But here's the thing. Bleak and Giant, whatever money they were getting, it seems like they were getting the bulk of it. At least that was the discussion in the room when they were planning with the new song he wrote, right? So it seems like Bleak and Giant weren't giving enough money to the other supportive members of the band, Shadow included, which is a huge point of contention. And so it wasn't only Bleak putting up with it because it was his friend. It was also Bleak putting up with it in line with that egotistical character because he was still getting the better end of the deal, which is why you hear Shadow when he says Bleak only cares about Bleak. He means that on mad levels, right?
Facts. The girls also said it. And so to get back to the point that I was making about what happened with Bleak. So we talked about what's his name? Giant. Yeah, Giant. We talked about Giant and he got his problem, and so he owes a lot of money to these like loan shark guys, which was Samuel L. Jackson, the loan shark people. And so they beat him up outside of the jazz club. And then after Bleak is done playing, he comes out to help him, and he gets his ass beat too. And so he gets put in the hospital. His lips get fucked up. And so as a result of that, once he get out the hospital type shit, he can't play anymore. He has damage to his lips, so he's not.
Which they kind of foreshadowed when she bit his lip in the beginning. Like,
he was like, I make my living
Achilles
with
heel.
Pause. That was crazy.
Right. And so and so with that being said, like he was no longer able to play. And I think the girl told him, or she asked him early in the movie, she was like, what would you do if you couldn't play no more? He said, I'd probably crawl up into a hole or something, crawl up into a ball and die or some shit.
Right.
And so I feel like when they did that and they damaged his lip, they took away his ability to do the only thing that he wanted to do in the world. And so I think that goes.
He was known to do.
Yeah. So I think that goes along with what you said about him losing the girls. He also lost the one thing that he said he loved more than the girls and loved more than everything else.
Right.
So he had nothing. And I feel like that's what they brought us to at the end of the movie, where you was talking about the scene with the shorty when he was like at his lowest type shit, because he didn't have anything. He lost everything. And so I feel like that kind of forced him to be like, you know, a better person. Like regardless of if she would have took him back or not, it was like he had nothing. He
And
had
I think
no
on top
music.
of that too, you
Yeah.
know, she would have been all kinds of justified to be like, no, I'm not going to save you. You know what I
Right.
mean? At
Right.
that point, she had all justification. But you know something? I think Clark had like a really strong moral character in this
That
film.
was not Clark.
I mean, Indigo.
That was Indigo.
Sorry,
Yeah,
even I got him
Denzel did.
confused, right? Even I got him
Clark,
confused, eh?
Clark got with Shadow at that time.
Yeah.
Also,
So Indigo at least had some like kind of like moral upstanding. But the other chick, yeah, Clark, she was just between both of them and just getting mad because she wasn't you know, number one on the list of priorities, you know. But yeah, Indigo was pretty redeemable. But
And by the way,
yeah,
Indigo is played by Joy Lee, who's Spike Lee's sister. So yeah,
that's
okay.
crazy. She was bad.
it's
in
kind
this
of
film.
weird. Kind of weird in my own, like, I don't know.
I found that shit kind of surprising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she, like, respectfully when I say that, she doesn't look like Spike Lee at all. You feel me?
I
Not
think
to
she
me,
looks
at least.
exactly like Spike Lee.
Not to me. Not to me at least. Like I don't watch
Well,
a lot of
fireworks.
Spike Lee
There's a
movies.
thing that goes like not all siblings look exactly alike. So
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I
anyways,
think she looks exactly like that nigga.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't examine her like that to really see if she looked like him or not. I didn't know that was his sister.
Yeah, and I didn't know she was also like I didn't know Spike Lee does this because I don't watch Spike Lee movies like that. You feel me? So I'm not too familiar with his work like to a crazy extent. So I didn't know he does the same shit that Quentin Tarantino does, where he reuses his actors that he's worked with
Yeah.
before. You know what I
Jordan
mean? So
Peele also does the same thing. I think.
yeah, you know what I mean? So that so apparently she was like on more of his other films and whatnot, you feel me? So
Yeah.
but this was my first introduction to her, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, you know
She's in
what?
Crooklyn. She's in Do the Right Thing. She's in a couple of them.
So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
this movie did well. What all Spike Lee movies do well is like carry a message. I think here the message was sort of being like consumed with an obsession and how like it kind of consumes everything around you too. And then like you have to sort of like balance that obsession so you can have a truly like fulfilling life or something like that. And I think they made it like pretty clear. There weren't too many loops and they didn't put too many like real layers. At least to the motif of the movie, but I think there was a lot of like little like gems here and there in the dialogue and stuff that really helped that theme kind of show through.
Yep, I agree.
But I don't know how y'all are feeling. Should we get to these Raiderinos or?
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's go down the list. Who we got first? We got let's see. All right.
Oh wait. My fault.
Uh-huh.
I kind
Go ahead.
of wait. I'm sorry, y'all. I thought one of the I thought not funny per se, but I thought one of like a scene that I like to highlight was when Indigo and Clark both walked into the club wearing the same dress.
Same dress. Why would
I'm
you
like,
buy a
yo,
girl the same dress, bro?
I'm like
Giant
from
said he
Paris.
told him not to
Apparently.
buy that shit.
From
Oh
Paris,
yeah,
apparently.
we didn't mention
But
what,
it's different
what was his
colors, bro.
name?
Like,
Left Hand Lacey. He had a white girlfriend who spoke
oh yeah,
French.
that's one of my favorite scenes, bro. They was clowning that nigga.
She was calling Giant racist and shit.
He said, no, he said she's a sister, you know. He said she's a nun.
She don't give me none. She don't take no. Yeah.
No, that was Robin Harris said the none shit.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about no when he was clowning when he was clowning him for having a white girl in the room. She was
Oh yeah.
He brought up a naked black woman and said she was a queen.
Yeah, they're like,
so you take your queen, you do what you have to do what you want with the queen.
He said this is my queen.
No, he's I'm not gonna say his. I don't know how to say it, but he's a great, good ass actor, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
I think there's a lot of good acting in this movie altogether. But
Yeah.
Art, if you wanted to give your final remarks and your rating.
yeah, man. Well, I actually surprised that everybody had so much like greatness to say about this movie. I wasn't expecting this, but no, this movie got a special place in my heart, man. It's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. So I might have a little bit of yeah, it is definitely, but I might have a little bit biasness in this rating, but I'm gonna give it a straight up 8.9.
All right. Bob.
So in a similar camp here where like this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time so far. I haven't watched a lot of movies, as you guys know. It's just part of my participation in this project we got going on to watch more movies, but I mean this is definitely a heavy hitter among our shit. And again, it ends up being like kind of this older movie. You know, way more polished than Desperado. So like amazing score, music performance was just incredible. The acting was really good, and even though Spike Lee writes really over the top, I felt like the characters carried through on their mission very well. Just great acting. I think the plot was trackable, and I thought that even though maybe the music might lose some people, the drama was definitely palpable. This movie gives you levity in the form of comedy, and then also kind of brings you down with some of the more intense themes of it. I would definitely recommend this movie to anybody who just like likes music a lot, who likes like kind of romance drama sort of stuff. Um, I gave this movie actually a 9 after watching it, and I think I'm gonna stay to that rating.
All right. FDub.
All right. So I was honestly surprised with this movie. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Definitely some life lessons that can be taken away from this movie that you could apply to yourself. You know what I mean? Don't be a cheater. You feel me? Don't don't mix business and pleasure. You feel me? All that. You feel me? There's a lot to like about this movie. Like I mentioned, the whole scenery. I thought the music was fire. You know what I mean? I watch anime, of course, so like that the whole jazz shit reminded me of like Cowboy Bebop and all that. You feel me? So that I really resonated with that. The acting was fire. I'm not gonna hold you. That shit was dope. Shout out to the star-studded cast that we had. With that being said, I give this movie a 9 as well. Really, like I said, this movie really surprised the hell out of me when Art posted the flyer and whatnot. But I was incredibly surprised. So shout out to this shit. And rest in peace,
John.
Robin Harris.
R.I.P. Robin Harris, man. R.I.P.
Charlie
Charlie
Murphy.
Murphy.
John Doe.
The dad also died. I forgot to do the name. But yeah, he died too. But
John, it's on you, man. What's your final impressions and ratings?
Let me say my famous line. Edit this out, fireworks.
oh, can I say something though? We can't talk about Spike Lee without mentioning his cinematography. He got one of the most unique cinematographies in the. I guess you could put this somewhere else in the middle. I don't know, but he got some of the most
my bad.
unique.
I just saw it, John. What you just
10.5.
messaged me. Yeah, I just saw what he just messaged me. He sent me his movie and his rating.
Alrighty, so that's John with the 7.5, right?
Yeah. So I'll go next because I'm last.
Yeah.
But so I like the movie. I think I like it. I don't like it as much as y'all did, but I think I did like it. The second half of the movie is really what got me, not so much the first half, because the first half I was like, I don't know where this is going. Nothing's really happening. They're not doing anything to progress the plot. So I'm like trying to figure out where
It's
the fuck
kind of
this is going.
it's kind of like a signature of Spike Lee movies too. It's just got a lot of just situational things just back to back to back happening. No real story for the most part.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. And like the real story kicked in like when they kind of it was like an hour in when they really got to like the fucking crux of like the issues type shit with him and the women, and then Shadow doing, because they kind of foreshadowed what was going to happen with Shadow in the beginning. The first scene, they was oh yeah, that's a fact. yeah, the first scene they had like a little issue where Giant was telling Bleak to like cut him off, don't let him do like a 3-hour solo like he's been doing every night. And then they go in the dressing room where they have like a little bit of banter. It's kind of playful, but at the same time, you can tell they kind of serious. And so it kind of foreshadowed like what the little issues were going to be, but they didn't really progress the plot that much in the first 45 minutes, so hour type shit, I feel like. So I was like thinking the pacing was pretty slow up to that point. Like, where are they going with this shit? But the second half of the movie definitely had my attention a lot more. And I think I liked the movie because of the second half. I think the music was good, especially like Art said, Mo Better Blues was fire, which is the title of the movie. That was the name of a song in the movie. I think that song was fire. The scene that happened when they was in the bedroom, like that was crazy to me. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. And I'm technically a film student now because I started a video production class, and so I'm looking at things on like a cine. How the fuck do you say that?
Cinematography.
Yeah, I was like, was I gonna make up a
Cinematic.
word? Yeah,
Cinematic. Yeah.
I'll say cinematic. Yeah, let's say that on a cinematic level. And so I was looking at that scene and the way they filmed it, and I was like, yo, this is really like some different shit. Like I don't see that type of shit ever in movies. Not nothing that I can really remember, especially in like an old movie like that, like 1990. They didn't really have the technology that we have today, where we could do shit with like the push of a button type shit. So I feel like that shit was amazing. But overall, I don't think this is a movie that I would just keep going back to. I feel like if it was like a movie that was just on, I probably would just watch it. I wouldn't change it, but it was cool. I think I like it because of the second half. So I give it a 7 myself. And with that being said, the final score for Mo Better Blues is an 8.2 rating, man.
Okay.
Shit, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, facts. And so, with that being said, John Doe has the next movie, but I don't think he's able to talk, so he sent me the next movie. And I'll announce that shit right now. I hope I got this shit right. He told me about this movie before, I believe. Yeah, I think this is it.
Can we get a drum roll, please?
Yeah, this is it. So next week's movie, we got 2004, Sandra Bullock, Don Cheadle, Matt Dillon, Terrence Howard, Ludacris, Michael Pena. We got a lot of people in the
movie. I know
movie.
the movie already.
We got 2004 Crash, man.
I knew the movie, bro. As soon as you said Ludacris, I knew the movie, bro.
Ludacris. we got another star-studded cast next week, man. We'll be back.
All right, man.
The Real Rap Coalition podcast, man. We are out.